I'm gonna be walking through how to install a wall-hung bathroom sink. And so this is our garage, and this is a little space here next to our washing machine that we can get a little place for washing our hands, whatever. And so I'm gonna be walking through how to install this thing. The instructions are pretty bad, and really the tricky part here is basically getting these studs set up right. So this is a 2x4 block I installed myself. I cut it on both sides, and then I used 3-inch deck screws. You can see them right here and here, as well as two ones you can't really see because of lighting, but they are there, and they are what give those two little metal nuts, or whatever you want to call them, something to grab onto. And so this is the final product. I'll walk you through how we do this, and stay tuned. The way these work is they give you I guess we'll call this a bolt or a screw of some kind. And so there is a one where the threads are a lot more coarse. This is what it's supposed to go into. They give you these little weird concrete anchor things. And so if you're doing this into like a concrete wall, you drill a hole that would be about the same size as this, and then the way this would work is this guy basically threads into that, pushes it apart, and that's what holds them in place in the wall. In my case, I'm going to be screwing this into wood studs. So I'm going to basically figure out the height that I want this to be at, and I'm going to measure the distance between these two mounting holes in this thing. And then once I do that and I make sure it's level, I'm going to come in and I'm going to basically screw these guys in place. They've got these little things, so I guess it'll be a slow and tedious process, but I'll basically come in and just thread that down. Alternatively, you can kind of use two nuts and try to do that, but basically we're going to be screwing this thing into a stud of some kind, and then once it's screwed into the stud, basically this end is going to be pointing out like that, and so that's where you won't be able to see this easily from above, but below what you're doing is you're getting that stud or the little exposed end here in, and then they get this little white washer thing. So that guy's gonna thread around that like so. And then finally what you do is you come on with a with the nut, and this part is what threads onto that. So you're biting into the wood here, and then you are basically pulling this thing against the wall with your nut right there, and ideally that gives you enough strength that this thing doesn't fall off. So this is the underside to it. I'll flip this over, you guys. Let's see what the top side looks like. Okay, so a little update here. So I want the top of the sink to be at 36 inches off the ground, so I marked that on my stud right here. And then I took one of my blocks and I unscrewed the 3-inch deck screws that I was using to hold it against the studs out. And then I used my hammer to basically knock this thing up and get it relatively level. And then in terms of where I want to aim to shoot the screws, I'm gonna have one of the screws go into the middle of a stud, and then I'm gonna have the other one go into this block. So that's why I raised the block up like that. So I measured this guy, and from the center of this to the center of this is about 5 inches. And also from the top of the sink to the bottom of this, or to the center of this hole, that distance right here is about 2.5 inches. So from 36, I go down 2.5 right here. So I'm gonna basically be putting one of these into that, and then 5 inches over is gonna be the center of another one of the nuts or screws that goes right here. Okay, so the way I'm going to screw this thing into the wall is I have a drill bit that is a little bit smaller than this guy is. So I'm going to be putting this into my impact drill. You can also use a normal drill as well. And I'm going to be aiming to make this just barely deep enough for my screw here. And so I might get a piece of tape and I'll just mark it off right about there, because I don't want to go any deeper than that. now that we've got these two guys in, they're not perfectly level, but there is going to be a little bit of play here, so I think I can get this sink to still be pretty level. I'm just going to throw this thing on, and then I'm going to, on the other side of that, after the sink goes on, I'm going to get this thing in, and I'm going to thread in this guy on top of that, so that it'll push or pull the sink against the stud like that. All right guys, and here is the finished product. I used the 1 foot level here just to try to get this thing as close as I reasonably could. And yeah, I'm liking it. So the part that people don't usually talk about is right here. And so you do have a nice amount of little play here to get this thing right where you like it. And now we've got ourselves a wall mounted or wall hung bathroom sink in our little garage. So I'm looking forward to finishing up the plumbing and using this thing.